Tonight, my wife Andrea and I celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary at one of the finest restaurants in town. It's a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, and everything from the decor to the food is luxurious and sophisticated. We were directed to a window seat overlooking the city at night. Andrea was dressed extraordinarily beautiful tonight. A black evening gown outlined her beautiful figure, her long hair was elegantly coiled behind her head, and the diamond earrings in her ears shone with a charming light. I gazed at her, my heart full of love and gratitude. These 5 years of married life, although plain, but I have always felt very happy. We ordered, and the sommelier poured us champagne. I raised my glass and said to Andrea, "Here's to our 5th anniversary and to my beautiful wife." Andrea didn't raise her glass. There was no smile on her face, and her eyes were a little averted. "Robert, I need to talk to you." I put down my glass and looked at her a little puzzled. "What's the matter, honey?" Andrea took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind. "Robert, we've been married for 5 years. What do you think of our life?" I smiled. "I think it's great. We have a stable job, we bought our own house, and our life is quiet but solid. Why aren't you satisfied?" Andrea shook her head. "No, it's not that I'm dissatisfied. It's just that I think our life is too dull, lacking passion and excitement. I want to try something new." I frowned. "Something fresh? Like what?" Andrea bit her lip, seemingly hesitating to speak out. A moment, she still opened her mouth. "Robert, I think I want to explore an extramarital affair." I felt a bang in my head, and I was confused. "What did you say? An affair?" Andrea nodded. "Yeah, an affair. I know it sounds crazy, but I really want to try it. Our marriage is so bland. I want some excitement." I looked at her incredulously. "But Andrea, an affair is not some game to try something new. It will destroy our marriage, destroy the trust between us. How can you think that?" Andrea sighed. "I know it's not easy to accept, but I really want to try. I don't want to hurt you, Robert, but I don't want to pretend I'm the perfect wife either. I need some personal space." I felt a twinge in my heart, as if someone had punched me in the face. I loved Andrea, and I'd always thought we were happily married. But now I realized I might not know my wife at all. How could she think such a thing? What's wrong with our marriage? I was silent for a long time, and finally said, "I need some time to think about it." After that, I stood up and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. On the way home, my mind was in turmoil, and Andrea's words were like a bomb that shattered all the good things I had imagined about my marriage. There was an unbridgeable rift between us. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Andrea's words kept echoing in my head, and my heart was filled with confusion, anger, and sadness. I kept reflecting on our marriage, trying to find the reasons for the current situation. I realized that over the years, our lives had really become more and more mundane. We were like 2 strange roommates, living in a common space, but lacking in soulful communication. I was so immersed in my work and life that I paid little attention to Andrea's feelings and needs. Perhaps it was my neglect that led to her urge to seek an affair. At dawn, I got up tiredly and walked into the kitchen where Andrea was already there, preparing breakfast. I was exhausted from thinking all night, but I knew we had to talk. I spoke, my voice hoarse. "Andrea, we need to talk about what you said last night." Andrea turned and faced me with a hint of unease and challenge in her eyes. I took a deep breath and tried to control my emotions. I asked her why she was making such demands, why she was betraying our marriage vows, and Andrea retorted vehemently, accusing me of never really caring about her, of never caring about her feelings. Our arguments became more and more heated, and our words became sharp and harsh. I felt a mixture of heartache and anger, and couldn't believe that our relationship had come to this point. Andrea's tears continued to fall, but her tone remained firm. She said she didn't want to live this hypocritical life anymore, and she wanted to change. After the argument, we fell silent. I stared at Andrea, whose once familiar face now looked so strange. I began to wonder if our marriage had a future. Trust and fidelity were the cornerstones of marriage, and now they had been shaken. I knew that I had to make a choice. But in the face of this difficult choice, I feel incredibly confused and painful. our feelings, has really come to an end? Or do we still have the possibility of recovery? I sat alone in the living room for a long time, unable to calm down. Outside the window, the city was waking up and a new day was beginning. But for me, the arrival of this day signaled that I had to make a life-changing decision. I knew that no matter what choice I made, I would face great challenges and difficulties. But I had no choice but to summon the courage to face this cruel reality. After that morning of arguments and conflicts, I began to seriously consider the possibility of divorce. I realized that if we couldn't solve our current problems, if the trust between us had broken down, then perhaps separation was the best option. I decided to meet with my attorney friend David, a longtime friend and experienced divorce attorney, to discuss the legal aspects of my divorce. I am confident that he will be able to provide me with professional advice and assistance. I went to David's office and told him about Andrea and I. David listened attentively, taking notes from time to time. When I finished, he pondered for a moment and began to analyze our situation. David told me that a divorce could be complicated given the length of our marriage and our property situation. We need to consider issues such as property division and alimony. If both parties cannot reach an agreement, we may need to go to court. This means that divorce can be a long and painful process. Listening to David's analysis, I felt a sense of despair. I never imagined that one day I would face divorce, let alone that it would be so difficult. But at the same time, I knew that if our marriage had come to an end, divorce might be the only way out. I asked David some specific legal questions, such as how to draft a divorce agreement, how to deal with joint property, etc. David gave me detailed answers and advised me to start collecting relevant documents and information to prepare for possible legal proceedings. After leaving David's office, I felt a heavy heart. The reality of the divorce was starting to become clear and tangible, and it made me feel fearful and uneasy. I knew that I was in for a difficult time and that I needed to be prepared. In the next few days, I started to prepare the necessary documents for the divorce. I collected our marriage certificate, real estate certificates, bank statements, and other documents, and organized them into categories. The process was exhausting and heartbreaking, but I knew it had to be done. At the same time, I began to seek emotional support. I contacted a few close friends and told them about my plight. They all expressed their sympathy and support for me and encouraged me to be strong for the future. Their comfort gave me a warm feeling that I was not alone. Nevertheless, my heart was still full of contradictions and struggles. On the one hand, I was angry at Andrea's demands and found it difficult to accept them. But on the other hand, I began to reflect on my own problems in the marriage and wondered if I was partly to blame for the current situation. I know that I have a lot to think about and weigh before I make a final decision. Divorce is not an easy thing to go through, and it will change every aspect of my life. I need to think carefully and face the difficulties and challenges that may arise. But anyway, I've taken the first step. I have started to prepare for a possible divorce, both legally and emotionally. I know that it will be a difficult journey, but I have no choice but to find the courage to face this harsh reality. After meeting with attorney David, I began to realize that divorce is not just a legal issue, but an emotional one. I needed to find a way to relieve my inner stress and pain, to recognize myself again, and to find meaning in my life. By chance, I came across a local cycling enthusiast group on the internet. They organize weekly rides to explore the nature around the city. I've always been interested in cycling, but I've never had the chance to try it out due to work and family commitments. Now, I think it might be a good way to divert my attention and rediscover myself. I joined the group and signed up for the next ride. It was a sunny weekend with a light breeze. I got on my rented mountain bike and started my first ride with the group. At first, I was a bit uncomfortable. Cycling is more physically demanding than I thought. When I was going uphill, my leg muscles ached and I was short of breath. When I was going downhill, I was a bit nervous that I might lose control of the car. But gradually, I began to enjoy the challenge. I felt the wind whistling in my ears, the burning of my muscles, and the beating of my heart. My mind became clearer and my emotions were soothed by this intense sensory stimulation. Riding seems to make me forget the worries of life for a while and gives me a moment of peace of mind. It was during this ride that I met Diana, a nurse who enjoys riding and hiking in her spare time, and we started chatting during a break. She is gentle, friendly, and has a great sense of humor that makes her feel very comfortable. We talked about our jobs, our writing experiences, and our problems in life. Although I didn't reveal too many details about my marital problems, Diana seemed to feel my pain. She encouraged me to be strong and believe that life will always be better. After the ride, I felt happy and energized. More importantly, I felt that I was no longer alone. Through the ride, I met a group of like-minded people, especially Diana, whose kindness and support made me feel warm and fuzzy. Over the next few weeks, I began to participate regularly in the cycling group. Each time I rode, I felt a release of my inner stress, and my mood became more cheerful. I began to look forward to the weekends and the meetings with my riding buddies, especially the conversations with Diana. Our friendship deepened, and I began to feel how special she was to me. Riding seems to have opened a new door for me. It not only gave me a channel to vent my emotions, but also gave me a chance to re-examine my life. In the close contact with nature and the sincere communication with my riding partners, I began to reflect on my role in marriage and life, and began to think about what I really want. I know that this is just the beginning. I still have a long way to go and a lot of problems to face. But through cycling, I have found a new starting point, a chance to rediscover myself. I began to believe that no matter how many difficulties lie ahead, I have the courage to face and overcome them. Over time, my friendship with Diana grew. We started going on more frequent rides and started having dinner dates after rides. Every time I spent time with Diana, I felt more relaxed and happy than ever before. As we rode alongside each other, enjoying the scenery along the way, Diana always found the most interesting things to talk about, so our conversations never got stagnant. She shared stories about her work at the hospital and her travels. I found myself more and more attracted to her wisdom, bravery, and kindness. For dinner, we would choose some quiet and cozy restaurant. Under the soft light, we savor the food and talk about our lives, and Diana is always a good listener. She patiently listens to my inner distress and confusion and gives me sincere advice and comfort. With her encouragement, I started to take the initiative to face the problems in my marriage and began to learn to work hard for my own happiness. Once we rode to a lake in the countryside. It was an exceptionally sunny day, and the lake's surface was sparkling, reflecting the blue sky and white clouds. We rested on the grass by the lake, enjoying the tranquility of nature. At such a beautiful moment, I suddenly had an urge to tell Diana how I felt. I told her how much support and encouragement her companionship had given me during this period of time, and how her presence had given me a new hope for life. Diana smiled softly as she listened to me and held my hand. She held my hand and told me that she felt the same way, and that our encounter was one of the best things in her life. That's how Diana and I established our relationship. Even though I have not completely gotten over the haze of marriage, Diana's love makes me feel incredibly happy and solid. I know that as long as she is by my side, I will have the courage to face everything. We started to plan our future together. We thought about the places we would ride together and the countries we would travel to. We discussed our jobs and aspirations and encouraged each other to pursue our dreams. With Diana's encouragement, I began to re-examine my career and thought about how to find more meaning and value in my work. Of course, our relationship has faced some challenges. I hadn't fully resolved my marital issues, which left me with some emotional concerns and guilt. But Diana always treated me with the utmost understanding and tolerance. She told me that she was willing to give me time and wait for me to get over my past. Her love makes me feel very touched and lucky. With Diana by my side, I feel that I am getting over the past pain and finding the meaning and direction of my life. Riding is no longer just a sport, but a testimony of our love. Every time I ride with Diana, I feel full of strength and hope. I know that as long as we go hand in hand, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. While in love with Diana, I continued to move forward with the divorce process. With the assistance of my attorney, David, Andrea and I began the long process of negotiation. We needed to agree on property division, alimony, and other issues, which was not an easy process. During the negotiation process, we would inevitably have arguments and conflicts, and Andrea would sometimes be unhappy and angry with the terms I proposed. I also felt unfair and aggrieved by some of her demands. But we both knew that if we couldn't reach a consensus, we would have to go to court, which would be a much longer and more painful process. After months of hard work, we finally reached a divorce agreement through the mediation of our lawyers. We decided to split the joint assets equally, and Andrea gave up her right to alimony. Although I wasn't completely satisfied with the outcome, I knew that it was the best option. Continuing to pursue this matter would only bring more harm to both parties. After the divorce was finalized, I felt a great sense of relief. This unfortunate marriage had finally come to an end, and I could finally let go of the past and start a new life. Although I still have regrets about the failure of the marriage, I know that it was a valuable life experience. It made me realize more clearly what I want and taught me how to face difficulties and challenges. The day I signed the divorce papers, I asked Diana out for a ride. We went to a small road on the outskirts of the city, where the environment was beautiful and the air was fresh. During the ride, I talked to Diana about my journey over the past few months. I told her that the end of my marriage had been painful, but it had also been a time of growth and inspiration. I thanked her for her constant companionship and support, and her presence gave me the courage to face all the difficulties. Diana gave me a big hug. She told me that she was proud of me because I was able to face the problem bravely and accept the result openly. She said that divorce is not a failure of a relationship, but a new beginning. We have to work together to create a better future. We started to think about our future life. We planned to find a new place to live, a more cozy and comfortable home. We talked about getting a pet, traveling a lot, trying new sports and hobbies. We agreed to work together for our dreams, to support each other and to encourage each other. With Diana by my side, I feel happier and more secure than ever. I know that there are still a lot of uncertainties and difficulties in our future, but I believe that as long as we walk hand in hand, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. Since my divorce, I thought I could start a new life. But then a phone call from Andrea and her mother shattered my peace of mind once again. I was getting ready to go for a ride with Diana that day when I got a call from Andrea's mother. She claimed that Andrea was having financial difficulties and wanted me to let her and the kids move into my house for a while. I was shocked and confused. Andrea and I have had very little contact since the divorce. I felt very uncomfortable with their sudden request. I explained to Andrea's mother that I now had a new life and a new partner. It would be hurtful and disrespectful to me and to Diana to have my ex-wife move in with me. But Andrea's mother didn't want to give up. She began to ramble on to me about Andrea's plight, claiming that I was to blame. She tried to use the family and the children to pressure me into giving in to their demands. I feel very angry and aggrieved. I had done my part as an ex-husband and father, and I had no obligation to continue to take on Andrea's life. What's more, I suspected that they were really in trouble, and perhaps this was just an excuse to get more financial support. I flatly refused Andrea's mother's request. I made it clear that I would not allow Andrea to move in, nor would I provide any additional financial support. If they were in real trouble, I suggested that they seek other sources of help, such as government welfare agencies or charitable organizations. Andrea's mother became furious and started accusing me of being an irresponsible ex-husband and father. She claimed that I was a selfish person who cared only about his own pleasure and not about the lives of his family. I tried to explain my position to her, but she would not listen. Finally, I had to end the conversation forcefully. This conflict has cast a shadow over my life. Although I stood my ground, deep down I felt a twinge of guilt and remorse. After all, Andrea had been my wife for so many years, but I knew that I couldn't make the wrong decision just because of such feelings. I needed to take responsibility for my own happiness and preserve my relationship with Diana. I decided to confess this to Diana. To my surprise, Diana was very understanding and supportive. She told me that I had made the right choice. She said that if I really let Andrea move in, it would hurt our relationship. Diana's support made me feel so warm and touched. I realized that the people who really love me would not ask me to sacrifice my happiness, and the people who really understand me would support my choice. With Diana's encouragement, I decided not to run away from the issue, but to face it with courage. I sent an email back to Andrea's mother, explaining my position and considerations in detail. I hoped that through open communication, she would finally understand and accept my decision. Just when I thought I was done with Andrea's mother, another unexpected event shattered my peace of mind. The other day, Diana and I were enjoying a rare moment together at home. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door and saw Andrea and her mother standing outside, I was surprised and uneasy. Before I could ask, they walked right into my house and Andrea looked around, and then bluntly asked me to let her and the kids move in with her. I looked at them in disbelief. I had already made it clear that I had refused their request during our last conversation. I was extremely angry and impatient that they had come to me uninvited and made such unreasonable demands. I tried to explain my position to them, saying that Diana and I needed our privacy and space. But Andrea's mother wouldn't listen, and she kept accusing me of being selfish and not caring about my family. In the face of their unreasonable demands and accusations, I felt a surge of anger burning in my chest. They were obviously using the family and the children to blackmail me and make me give in to their demands. Fortunately, Diana stepped in to support me. She calmly expressed our position to Andrea's mother, pointing out that their behavior was inappropriate and that I had done my duty as an ex-husband and father. At the insistence of Diana and me, Andrea and her mother finally left. The moment I closed the door, I felt more relieved than ever. This incident made me realize that I had to do something to protect my life and Diana's life. We decided to install some security cameras in our home in case Andrea and the girls came back. More importantly, this incident made me really look inside myself. I realized that I no longer belong to the past. I belong to the present, to Diana, and to our future together. From now on, I will not let the shadow of the past interfere with my life. I will bravely face the future and firmly protect my happiness. With Diana by my side, I feel very solid and lucky. I know that no matter what the future holds, as long as we walk hand in hand, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.